the series of cases that he has, he may get a bail in this anti-terrorist court thing, but there are 3-4 cases that he would not be able to get bail renewed. He has got 2 bails renewed in 2 different cases, but not anymore.
Okay, what about that said, Wasif? Do you think that Mr. Musharraf miscalculated the amount of support that he would have upon arrival in Pakistan or not?
Partly yes, he miscalculated. But whatever the gentleman in Islamabad said was not totally correct, because he pinpointed and he accused Musharraf of high treason. But what about other generals who were in his team? The judges who took oath of allegiance under his presidency, and the other bureaucrats and all other people, and the media who supported him initially during his 8 years of rule. So why now? You know, and why only Musharraf? Why not all other generals? Why not all other bureaucrats? Why not all the judges of the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice, and including the Chief Justice of the 4 high courts, and including the current General Chief of Army Staff, Kiani, including all other generals in the Corps right now, in the 9 Corps commanders.
What about that, Mr. Ahmed, what Mr. Wasif has just said? What about what he's just said? Do you think that Mr. Musharraf is being used as a scapegoat, or how do you see this in the whole scheme of things?
This is pretty funny when people really forget about how he came into power and what was the way to enter the power circles and corridors. Whatever he did till 2005 or 2006, until the 18th Amendment came, there would be and there can be questions about Chief Justice. There can be question about the previous judiciary which sanctioned him for that matter, which was not very legal, which was not very sort of democratic and constitutional to have him rule the country for a certain period of time. But Musharraf's 3rd of November emergency has not been vindicated by the Supreme Court or by the Parliament of Pakistan. The judges, their return to their chambers after this whole mess that he created was authenticated, verified, established by the Parliament of Pakistan unanimously, without people opposing it. And this is what some of those people who really look at Musharraf as Messiah forget to know, that how this whole process went ahead. His sacking of judges has not been cleared by the Parliament. Those judges are not retired chief justices or whatever he made of for his own self. Media's job is to report, and media was one single most important arm of the state which actually threw Musharraf out. Judges movement had an equal role of media to really put Musharraf in that corner where he was. You cannot really compare a retired general or a general who comes into power and he becomes so-called president with someone who's democratically elected. We believe still that Nawaz Sharif did not have the guts to stay in jail and be someone like Nelson Mandela, and such poor important leaders of Pakistan left the country onto the mercy of these generals. And now in this country, as of today, as of this date, we have so many people who are really out and who really do not want any retired or serving general to intervene. One last point that this gentleman raised was about the other people. Musharraf was leading the show. And when Musharraf was leading the show and all those acts which are not really seconded by or accepted by the Parliament, whosoever was involved would come into play. Just wait a while. He is being respectfully treated. He is living in a mess. His children and his family is not starving in the so-called Chak Shehzad, villa or whatever. He is being kept in a very respectable manner. He is not handcuffed. He is not held from his hair in public.
Well, let me just jump in here, Mr.
This
Ahmed.
was what was going
let
on
me
with
jump
the
in here with
judges.
something that
So,
you've just said. You said that he is being treated with respect and everything. I want to look at how likely is it that Mr. Musharraf has been promised that basically he will not have to serve long term, and perhaps that he will be able to re-enter the political scene in Pakistan.
I didn't get your question. Are you saying that he would not serve jail for long term and he will enter the politics?
I'm asking you the possibility of that. Do you think that he perhaps was promised that possibility, being after 4 years that suddenly he decided? Of course, you said he was monitoring some of the social network sites, but obviously a person to take everything and take that type of a risk, do you think that perhaps he has been promised something that he believes that he will not have to serve and that actually he can re-enter?
I think it's sheer overconfidence that this man has lived. He went into Kargil without calculating what India's response could be and how India will react in '99 in Kargil debacle. And he had this debacle thrown on the face of entire nation. Now in this case as well, this crazy commando decided to come back to Pakistan against the advice of the Americans, against the advice of the Saudis, against the advice of UAE friends that he had, and some wise Pakistani columnists which have soft corner for him.
Let me get Mr. Wasif back in on this, and let me get Mr. Wasif's perspective on that. Mr. Wasif, do you think that he has, why do you think he has risked it all? Do you think that basically he did not take the advice of many who told him not to return, or do you think that perhaps he really believes that he can re-enter political life inside of Pakistan?
Well, of course, I think he doesn't have that kind of expert advisors on domestic politics in Pakistan, and of course international advisors as well. As far as the gentleman in Islamabad is concerned, I think he's a pro-Saudi gentleman who is in favor of Nawaz Sharif or whoever, the corrupt politicians there. You know, I'm not supporting any military dictatorship. I haven't supported any military dictatorship. But when we compare two devils and two evils, we support for the lesser of the two evils. Musharraf was a lesser of the two evils. We have been seeing pro-Saudi terrorism in Pakistan during the times of Nawaz Sharif, who is also backed, supported, and financed by the Saudi regime in Pakistan. The Al-Qaeda and Taliban guys are supported by the Saudi regime in Pakistan. The military in Pakistan is being supported by the Saudi regime in Pakistan. The drone attacks by the Americans are being condoned and supported by
let me just jump in here with something you've just said Wasif. Let me just jump in here with the drone.
Let me complete. When he speaks, you just keep quiet. When I speak, you start disturbing me.
No, that is not the case.
Let
you complete that, and I will go back on what you just said with the drone. Go ahead.
Let me complete.
Go ahead.
No, I'll leave the stage. Let me complete.
I said go ahead.
Let me complete.
Please do. Go ahead.
You are discriminating.
Mr. Wasif, I'm saying please continue. Make your point, sir.
Don't disturb me unless I am done.
Sir, do not yell at me and make your point. Go ahead, please.
This is a game of Saudi involvement in Pakistan's politics. Saudi involvement. The Pakistan's ISI is a Saudi-backed intelligence agency.